Hello everybody and welcome back. In the last lesson we learned how to use variables and conditionals inside Django templates to display dynamic data and show content based on logic. In this lesson we are going to learn another powerful feature of Django templates, which is tags and loops, specifically the for loop. This will help us show a list of items like products, blog posts, comments or tasks, basically anytime you need to display multiple items on a web page. We'll understand how the for loops work in Django templates, look at the special loop helper variables that Django gives us, and then build a simple to-do list project together. After that, you can jump into the practice problem on CodeChef for this lesson and try it out yourself. So let's get started.
Django templates don't just show text. They also support logic using special tags. Tags are enclosed in the curly brace and % symbol, and they control the flow of your page. Today, we will learn one of the most common template tags, the for loop. It lets us loop over a list of items the same way we do in Python. Let's understand what are template tags. Template tags are Django's way of adding logic inside HTML. So whenever we need to perform actions like loops, conditions, including templates, we use tags, and they are always inside the curly brace and % symbol. The for tag is the most commonly used one, so let's learn about it. So here is the basic syntax for loop. Whatever code is inside the for block runs once for each item in the list. And you must also close the loop using the end for. So here you see for item in items. So you can imagine items as a list, and this item is the iterator that you use in order to iterate over the items in the list. And since this is a tag, we enclose them within this curly brace and % symbol. And here we are making use of this item variable, that is why it is enclosed within curly braces, double curly braces, like we have already studied in the previous lecture. And here we see that we also need to end this for loop using the end for statement. Now let's take an example with a view and a template. We'll see how to pass data from view to templates. So here in our view, we have a function called book_list. And we see that books is actually a list which has these items book 1, book 2 and book 3. And we are using the render function, which we have already studied, in order to pass this list called books to the template using the context dictionary. So we see that we are going to pass this list to the template called books.html, and it is this books list that we are going to pass, and it will be accessible in the books.html file with the variable name books. Okay, you can change the variable name if you like. Now if you look at the template here, let's assume that this is the books.html template. Here we are having an unordered list, and using the for loop I am trying to access all the items in that books list. So here I say for book in books. So remember, books is the list that we got from the view, and then book is an iterator or a variable that I'm using in order to iterate over the items in the list called books. And then here using the list tag, I am just listing out the books here using double curly braces because this is a variable. So all the items in the books list will be displayed here. And then we end it using the end for statement. And also we end the unordered list tag. Now let's also look at some for loop helper variables. Now Django gives us some built-in variables during loops. This helps show item numbers, check if it is the first or last item, and so on. You can see this in action when we look at the examples. So here these are some examples that we have. We have this for loop.counter, which is a one base loop index in order to count the number of items in a list or something. And we have for loop.counter 0, which is a 0 base counting index. And you have for loop.first, which returns true if the first item in the list is present, and we have for loop dot last, which will return true if the last item of the list is present. So these are some helper variables that you can make use in your for loop, which are provided by Django. Alright, now let's take an example on the CodeChef platform in order to understand all that we have studied so far. We'll build a simple to-do list display using the for loops that we have just discussed. So here, as you can see, our task is to build or create a simple to-do list display. So the project has already been created for you. The name of the project is to-do list project, and under this we have an app called to-do list app, and we have its views.py file, and then under the templates folder we have this to-do list.html, which is a template that we are going to make use of, and also we have the urls.py file of the main project. So first let me show you the views.py file, and then we will move ahead. So if you take a look at this views.py file of our to-do list app, we can see that we have a function called to-do list, and we have created a list of tasks over here. So you can see we have tasks here, and each of them has some key value pairs, like for example ID, and then title, and then a completed flag. So for example, in the first one we have ID 1, and the title of the task is buy groceries, and the completed flag is set to false. Similarly, the second one has the ID 2, the title is clean the house, and the completed flag says true. So we have some 5 task list here. And now what we are doing is we are trying to pass this list to our template using the render function, and the template that we have is to-do list.html. So we are passing it to this, and then we are passing this list called tasks, and then the name that we are going to use in order to access this in the template is also tasks. Okay, now let's come to the template and see what happens in the template. Now as we come to the template, you can see we are running a for loop here. So first of all, there is a h1 tag, that means a heading that will show my to-do list, and then we are making use of some unordered list. Okay, there is a basic HTML tag, and then here is the interesting part, that is a for loop. So since it is a for loop, as we already said, it has to start with a curly brace and % symbol. So it says here for task in tasks. Now this tasks is the list that we got from our view, and then this task over here is a variable or an iterator that we are going to use in order to iterate or move over each of the items in this task list. Okay, so as long as there is items in this task list, this for loop will continue executing. Now what happens inside the for loop? This is the body of the for loop. So maintain proper indentation like we do in Python. So here we are making use of the list tag in order to just list out the items. This is an HTML tag again. Now here we are making use of a conditional statement that we have studied in the previous lesson. So again, conditional statements also has to be enclosed within the curly brace and % symbol. So it says if task.completed. So if task.completed means if that particular task completed status is true. So if you remember, in the view we had a completed flag which was set to either true or false. So if task.completed means if it is true, then we are going to just strike off that task title. So using this dot operator, we are able to access the attributes or the values inside the list that we had. So task.title, and again this is a variable we are referring to, that's why you have to enclose them within this double curly braces. Okay, so if a task is completed, using the HTML's strike tag, we are just going to strike it off just to show that it is completed in the display. Alright, then we have the else part over here. So this is if the completed is true. Now else would mean if it is false. So if it is not true or if it is false, then we are just going to display the title as it is without the strike. So that's why we just display it as it is. And again, since this is a variable, we enclose it within double curly braces. And then we have to end the conditional if statement using the end if. Okay, that's what we have done here. Alright, so remember that we are still inside this for loop, and inside the for loop again I just want to print the task number. So what is the index of the task? I want to print that. So for that I am going to make use of the for loop.counter, which is a helper variable that we have discussed. So if I say for loop.counter, it will display the index of the iteration starting from 1. So it will first display task number 1, and for the next iteration it will display task number 2, and so on till we reach the end of the task. Okay, and then we close the list tag here, and then we are also ending the for loop here using the end for statement, and we are also ending the unordered list tag. And here you can also see another thing, that is total tasks, and then I say task pipe length. So this is actually a filter that we are using in Django in order to find out or display the length of this list. Length would mean the number of items in that list. So this is something known as filters, which we'll study in detail in the next lesson. So this is just a small introduction to filters in this lesson for you. Alright, so we are done with the template file. Let me also take you through the urls.py file quickly. So this is the urls.py file of the main project. So here we have a function for the home, which will return an HTTP response saying server is running, and in URL patterns we have a path for the home or the root, which will call this home function. And then after the root URL, if somebody types to do, then we are going to call the to-do list view. Okay, the to-do list view will be called, and which is that is the one which we just discussed here, the to-do list view. So to-do list view passes all this list into the template that we have, and we already saw what happens in the template. Okay, so let me run this project and show you if it is working as we expected. So I click on the run button. So the server is starting over here, and we can see that on the home page we have this HTTP response saying server is running. Now let me go to the URL part, and after .com I will type to do and type enter, and you can see here that the template comes up. It says my to-do list, which came from this h1 tag here, and then you can see that using the for loop we have displayed all the items that we had in the list which came from the view, and then all the items which had the completed flag as true is striked off. So that we achieved using this if condition in our template, and it says total task is 5, which we achieved using this filter, which we will study in detail in the next lesson. So we see that our to-do list is working. You can try changing the values in the task list to test your logic, and that's the beauty of Django templates, clean HTML mixed with dynamic data. So now it's your turn. You can come to the CodeChef platform and you can try the same example, and also you can try the practice problems that are available for this lesson in order to practice and reinforce this topic and make it clear in your mind. So practice is how you master Django templates.
Great work today. You learned how to use template tags, the for loop in Django templates, built-in loop helper variables like for loop counter, and you build a to-do list using loops and conditionals. In the next lesson, we will work with template filters and comments, which will help format data inside templates. Until then, keep practicing on CodeChef, and I will see you in the next video.